everyone. And thank you to our panelists for volunteering to participate. So about 4 years ago, an article came out describing this concept of data mesh. And the concept has really taken the industry by storm. I've personally been amazed by the response that we've seen both from our clients, from other participants in the industry, and even by players such as Amazon, Google, Snowflake. So it's a concept that is very exciting and has raised a lot of interest right now. But the important thing for people to know is data mesh is not just a technology approach. It is a change in the way that people operate, the way they look at data, the way they manage data, and how they interact with one another. And so we put together a panel here of experts, of luminaries, of geniuses who have had great experience leading us on, or leading their organizations on this journey. And we've described this at Thoughtworks as a journey of show, shift, and scale. First, show, demonstrate the value of data mesh to your organization. Then shift, move from a proof of value to a way of working. And finally, scale, take it across the enterprise. And each of our panelists has that experience. And so we're going to hear from them the valuable lessons learned and see some of the scars that they've earned along the journey. So to get started, I want to ask each of you first, what were you thinking when you started this data mesh journey? What were you trying to achieve in your organization? What made you say yes to this? Jeremy, could you start?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Seagen is a cancer therapeutics company, and we have a very particular technology that we have really catalyzed across the industry called antibody drug conjugates. So we have 4 products in the market, but the reality in pharma and biotech is that about 35% of drugs actually move from research into clinical trials. It takes about 12 years to get from that first, from research through to FDA approval at $2 billion on the average. And then less than 10% of drugs actually get the FDA approval and get to market. So it's very expensive, cost prohibitive, and our goal is to get to improve the lives of people with cancer and extend their lives. And so we, data is an accelerator. And there's a lot of focus across the industry to be able to make your data mineable and break down silos. And so how can we actually make data findable, interoperable, accessible, and reusable, fair data principles in the academic biotech world, and accelerate drug discovery so we can actually improve the lives of people with cancer faster.
Fantastic. Amy, how about you? What has this meant for Pratt Whitney?
Yeah, so Pratt Whitney makes jet engines, and on my particular program is the Joint Strike Fighter. And as we design engines in the modern world, we make more and more data come off of those engines, and yet I've seen less and less use of that data. So one of the things that we were trying to solve for was being able to get out of our fragmented ways of working with data and spend less time manually processing the data and getting better insights from that data and making the data more powerful. Another thing we were trying to improve was our access to technology. So I'm part of a team that is not in the IT team. They are embedded with the business, and their access to the best and latest technology just wasn't really there, and the relationship with the IT group wasn't there either. So we also just wanted, the concept of self-service infrastructure and the whole operating model by how we work with IT was something that we were looking to improve upon.
Thank you. And Omar?
Yeah, so I feel like a grandfather of implementing this because we started our journey 3 years ago when I was at Roche as head of BI and analytics for diagnostics division. And you might remember COVID last 3.5 years. A lot of diagnostics and tests were done. So that's what the equipment from labs, etc., is generated by Roche Diagnostics. So it was all exact 3 years, the same time when I presented the data and analytics strategy without meeting even the IT leadership team in person. And then came the part, okay, I presented this, what are we going to do about it? So the article which you refer to, everybody has read it. I read it as well. I shrugged it off. You know, what the heck? Because it really challenges what we have been doing in past. And to answer your question, what were we thinking? So I was thinking about Albert Einstein. Because he said, right, that you repeat the same thing and expect different results, and it's insanity. And that was exactly the question I had. Shall I do another data lake as part of the data and analytics? Shall I do another data warehouse? We already have 7, so why not do an 8th one on cloud this time? Why not? So that was the point when I approached Jean-Marc, and one of the advantages of COVID, you can't meet people, but you can meet everybody virtually.
Right.
And that helped out. We met the team, Thoughtworks team as well, for like 4 or 5 sessions over 6 months. Challenged them, they challenged me, helped me understand what is this. And please remember, there was no book, there was no any article, there was no learning community, there were no fellow implementation practitioners, there were no critics even. It was just that article, and it was a promise. And the promise for me was how data mesh talks about those 4 principles and not just about technology. Because that's really important in my point of view. People, process, technology, all 3 needs to be addressed. And this is the only approach out there which talks about, by design, that you are talking about the organizational operating models, you're talking about treating data as a product, and not forget about the technology piece as well. And since then we started, we have our learnings, what to do, what not to do. We made few things which are now quite public and common. Everybody don't have to do it now. You can just get it off the shelf, some of the components. But it has been quite rewarding, interesting journey of 3 years already.
Fantastic. So Jeremy, for you, you're the most recent on this journey. It began earlier this year. What were some of those first successes? What were you looking to demonstrate the value in your organization to earn that right to go further?
Yeah, one was fast time to market, right? So we had the approach that think big, start small, learn fast. Because we knew that we were going to be facing a cultural issue. We knew that, you know, our customers internally are scientists, and scientists have kind of their form fixedness. They have their experience. All of us as humans, our previous experiences often impede our ability to think creatively about solving a new problem. So it was part of the challenge to breaking down silos is to take this approach, build this multidisciplinary team that is working together and delivering value quickly. So showing how we could combine new data sets in partnership with the team in ways that they haven't been able to do before, in vivo studies with in vitro studies that we've never been able to do as a company. And we showed that working together with this data product concept, thinking about reusability, could help start to spark new ideas and new thinking, and then kind of prove the model as we go. And so I think that was really critical. Executive sponsorship in the project, any data mesh implementation, I think is mandatory. You have to have advocacy and sponsorship, not just a launch, but somebody that is frequently present, their voice is present, because that will also help to drive the change within the organization. The other thing I wanted to prove is, personally think that the historical IT funding models are just broken. I don't believe in a data mesh world that annual planning and big, long projects are the exact best way to go. And so we wanted to prove that we could deliver value, we could get the ROI that we committed to, but not have a long-term waterfall project that had specific financial targets that we could kind of prove this product mindset. And so that's the journey we've been on. Like John, you mentioned, we started earlier this year with Thoughtworks.
Well, that makes a great reason, even though you're going to have to miss the magic show. Sorry about that. So Amy, you've been through this process as well, and you're now taking the organization from that initial proof into institutionalizing it, into making it a business as usual practice, and you put some structure together. Could you share that with us?
Yes, so I'll say the first thing is in our initial engagement with Thoughtworks, that during the discovery phase, they did a really good job of identifying the preliminary use cases. One of the use cases that is really important in our world is a lot of this is based off of predictive models. You know, when is the engine going to need maintenance? And so the people who developed the models had the hardest time comparing the models to what actually happened. You know, the collection of that data and the right amount of detail to be able to analyze and interpret and make those models, those predictive models better, was what was taking all the time. You know, that was taking 10 people 160 hours a week just to capture the basic facts. So some of the initial problems that we solved for them is a process that may have taken 3 weeks end to end to get through to generate one of these scenarios now takes a couple of hours. So, and that's like real, like that builds believers. Another one was around the cost. So a big part of this is how much does it cost? We schedule these engines to come in for maintenance, and what is it supposed to cost, and what does it actually cost, and what are the drivers, and what should we do about it? So a lot of the bigger organizations that are driven by spreadsheets, they can't bring the basic data together to even do the first part of this, you know? And so just being able to show that we could get that data out of the enterprise systems and bring it together and, again, automate the way that we look at that data was a big help. And then the last was on data quality, 2 different systems saying different things, and the ability to identify those differences and then bring those systems back to be consistent with each other. So those were our initial use cases. I think as we're going into Shift, some of the challenges are the business sees those initial use cases and thinks that everything is about automating data. You know, everything is about automating making their report. Or everybody likes to see, you know, this in a dashboard. So right now we're trying to steer the organization into thinking more analytically and coming up with more analytical use cases. And we're learning all together, you know, these concepts of source-aligned versus consumer-aligned data products, and getting to the point that we're having conversations about the data, and, you know, to move us from, you know, the manual processing and automating that to where we really want to be is being able to explain why things happen, predict why things are going to happen next, predict what's going to happen next, but then most importantly, what do we do about it? You know, what decisions do we make, and what actions do we take to be able to really improve the performance, the availability of our engines, you know, our ability to get these engines, you know, from on wing through our overhaul facilities and back on wing again. So I think this is like a lot of the socio-technical parts of this that we're talking about, and the change management, and even the way we reward people within the program to start thinking about what is essential data, and who is the owner of that data, and how do we produce it in a way that can not just be used. What we found is that there was a lot of data silos, but the real problems required us to pierce those silos and work across the value stream. So we're trying to, you know, engage the organization now in deeper conversations about what we're really trying to solve for. And it's been fun, not only just to see the modern access to the platforms and technologies we have make it easy to prototype that, but it's also informing our organization. And I think that's what I really enjoy about this approach too, is just we're learning more about our business as we go too, and that's been really powerful.
Great, yeah. Thank you. So Omar, going back to your point before, you're absolutely right. You're one of the pioneers, and as we know, most of the time pioneers end up dead.
Thank you.
You've survived, and given that, what is something you're looking back saying, now that I've learned, now I've also seen the industry progress, what are some of the things you say, I might have done differently, or I wish I knew now, or knew then what I know now? So what are some of the key things you take away?
Yeah, so I find myself in a self-conflicting state, because sometimes I think maybe I should have gone way faster because the benefits are real, and why not achieve those benefits faster? But the reality is, going back to Darren's talk, right? The actuality and the authentic part is that it's not a journey that I have to make. It's a journey that the organization has to make. The domains, and we are talking about 100,000 people in a company, and if not all of them are involved in data product creation, you need to at least take them with you. So maybe I would have gone far more deeper with more repeated messages, with far higher focus on the social aspects, and maybe overwhelm them not to even discuss technology whatsoever, because that's become just a secondary point. It becomes, technology becomes irrelevant once you focus on the social and the outcomes of the business.
So, Jeremy, I wanted to get your sense too. We've been talking, and the key principle, and one that's really sort of taken the forefront, is that data as a product. And so Amy's been talking, and Omar as well, about this concept of data as a product and what that means for their organization. For you all, what does that really mean?
Yeah, it's something that is probably a little different now than I thought it was when we started this journey. Just picturing just this product catalog where people could go and download data. It's to me kind of evolved into something a lot more maybe organic, almost like like an entity in and of itself. What it means to me is that it's got a life cycle, as Joe was talking about earlier, the usability, viability, feasibility, desirability. You have to hit all those bases, but you also have to think really hard about, is it the right thing to build? One of the cultural challenges that I'm sure we all face, that we face, is that a lot of people just want you to solve their problem. And it's really easy for a tech team to hear that and turn it into a data product. But is that really the best investment? Does it hit all of those 4 pillars of what a product means? And then are you funding it in a life cycle that can evolve? And then ultimately at the end of the day, are people using it? Right? Because you can build the best data products in the world, but if nobody uses it, then it's really, everything's for naught. And so, part of what I like about what Amy and Omar are saying is I think just data products, you can't get away from when I was at the Gates Foundation, there was a saying on the wall, is an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so it kind of goes back to really making sure we're building the right things, as Joe said, building them in the right way, that we're building reusable products that are going to be used, right? And then we can tie value to those.
And so to make that happen, there's now this new role, this new unicorn in our industry, the data product manager. And so what has been your experiences? Omar, I'll start with you. Experiences trying to find and foster these people.
So I love these 4 principles, right? And I lovingly call them mind, body, heart, and soul. So when we talk about treating data as a product, we are talking about something which is very close to my heart. It's something which in your body pumps the blood. It's not working, you're dead. And this means that the person who's responsible for this organ, the data product manager, is a very important role to play. This is the person who becomes a role model in the company, that this is what it means to treat data as a product. So truly a unicorn, difficult to find, but can be created, because once you start talking to them, we are talking about somebody who has these unique E-shaped skills, not T-shaped, but E-shaped skills, because we are talking about domain knowledge. So we can talk about business outcomes, not how to create an S3 storage or something like that, or on table or schema on Snowflake. That should be the last of the worries of any product manager. But what are those outcomes? How will we know whether we have delivered those outcomes? How can we measure them? Is it even important for the business outcomes, business objectives that we have? Now, if we don't have that person, whether it's IT or business, it really doesn't matter. And that has been quite a quite a factor that I have real examples where we have pure business-oriented teams as well as pure IT teams with few subject matter experts from business. And both of them work very nicely because they bring in their own strengths for different domains. So I personally follow what, I mean, years. So there are some good architecture practices around data. There are learnings from data lakes and data warehouses which we should not throw away. And how can we bring them together? That has been the learning for us. And you can train these people, you can send them to online courses, but it comes with practice, it comes with being a product manager, being close to the end user, being customer centric. All those buzzwords are real, and you need this person to live them.
Fantastic, thank you. And we have just a little bit more time left here. So one of the things I want to check, we always say, well, it's not just about technology, it's not just about technology, but there's some technology involved. So Amy, you and I were talking about some of the learnings that you had recently about thinking about new tools. And when we started Data Mesh, again, to Omar's point, it was have to build a lot of these components because they don't exist. But there are some new technologies or thoughts you've had about working with a tool like Databricks towards enabling you.
Yeah, again, I just love this whole concept of data mesh because all four pillars kind of play off of each other. And one of the things that we had, our IT team now is acting in a role as giving us access to take technology in a compliant way. And so as that technology becomes available, we decide whether, when, how to incorporate that into our stack. And with Databricks right now, we were able to swap out 4 different elements and plug in that as well. And what we're finding is it's not just the ability to produce our data products and how we do that most efficiently, but we also, with the notebooks, our workforce is really adapting well to the notebooks and the ability to access the data, do the compute, script, and visualize the data in the notebooks. And that's actually helping to get the flywheel going on our data product delivery, because you can actually, if you really think about it, you can bring new data to the table and have conversations around it. And something happens when you're visualizing data that helps you think more about what is the real consumer-aligned data product that we need to make out of this data. So I just think that I really love how, like you said in the beginning, there may have been like blueprints for architectures and things like that, but as different technologies becoming available and incorporating, I can see the workforce adapting and using it to get smarter. And I think once confronted with data, that's when the real renaissance starts to happen, and the ability to think of what's possible and to get just smarter about the type of questions that we would ask about the data.
Now we come to the point that I got a lot of pushback on this, especially from you, Omar. It's like, just one? But if you all can give us one takeaway, both from this conversation and preparing for this and through your experiences, what would you want to share with this audience? Jeremy, I'll start with you.
Boy, it's tough after this conversation. I have to double down on culture. You're not going to build data products or implement technology without actually changing culture at the same time. People have to kind of start to think about data in a different way. Data ownership sitting in the business, that's something completely foreign to most business users, especially researchers. So I think you're really understanding and appreciating the challenges that culture can bring, but also the opportunity for innovation and accelerating work.
Fantastic. Amy, what about you?
I would just say don't wait. The technology is evolving so fast. There may be a tendency to say, oh, I'm just going to wait till this is available or that is available. But the learning that's happening as you go is the most important thing. And even just demonstrating the ability in our team to be able to adapt as the new technology comes available and how you bring that in. has been one of the most important things that I needed to see, because of the change. So I would just say, don't wait, go fast, keep focused on the value that you're providing, and you'll be fine.
Okay, so Omar, you were the biggest pushback on this. Do you have one for us?
Oh, I have 3 things for you.
I do it, of course.
So of course I support fully what Jeremy and Amy has said, and being very cheesy, it is truly a paradigm shift, like the name suggests. It is. Do not take it lightly. It might not be for your company, may not work, especially if you don't believe in letting go of some of the things centrally, may not work. So that was the second thing.
Okay.
The third one, fully on board with what Amy said, and I will put it like this: let your heart go and your mind will follow. Go for it. The value is tremendous. When the people start taking ownership, when they start sharing data, when they start talking about outcomes, there is nothing more beautiful out there, right? So, 3 things.
But you got them in quick, so I appreciate that. All 3 of you, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing this. These scars are well earned. And I invite everybody to grab our panelists later and ask them questions, learn from their experiences. And again, thank you so much for your time with us today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.